So the tremolo trill, or as harpists call it, Bisbigliando, is a technique that's very specific to the harp. However, it's one that's not very thoroughly explained in most harp notation guides beyond an illustration and a simple definition. Hi, I'm Danielle with Compose Harp, and I want to share with you the resources you need to learn how to write for the harp with confidence. Today, I'm going to share with you 2 rules for writing Bisbig, 3 suggestions for how to make it really fit the harp well, and demonstrate 4 examples from the harp literature. So first, the 2 rules. Number 1 is that it requires 2 hands. While very short duration Bisbigs could be played with 1 hand very slowly, you're not going to get the full effect you're looking for with 1 hand, rather you need to use 2. The hands are going to be alternating notes. The second rule is that it needs to be quiet, so don't expect a Bisbig to be fortissimo or forte, because the harpists have to replace so quickly. We can't pull and get the same sound of the strings as we would with a much slower note. Notice the faster I get, the quieter the Bisbig is. Here's 3 suggestions. There will be some flexibility within them. They're not strict rules, but adhering to them will give you a better compositional result. The first suggestion is don't repeat the same note. So if you're writing a Bisbigliando with 4 notes total, 2 in each hand, don't have the 2 hands repeating the same 2 notes. Use an enharmonic and try to have at least 3 different notes. This is a trill between A flat and B flat, and I'm going to play it first repeating the same 2 notes. Now I'm adding a G sharp as an enharmonic just to give it a little bit more resonance. The second suggestion is only 3 notes per hand. This isn't strict. There are instances, such as an excerpt I will show you later, where you're going to use 4 fingers in each hand. However, if you do that, keep the range within an octave. The reason is because the more notes we add, the slower the Bisbigliando will become. So here's 2 notes. Here's 3 notes. Then here's 4 notes. See, it gets substantially clunky when you add in the 4 notes. The third rule is to keep the range of each hand within an octave. So in order to be playing fast and repeating these same notes, you want to limit how much the hand has to stretch. So if I'm keeping each hand here, it's within a 1/5. I wouldn't be able to get that same sound if I was doing. It's a lot slower and a lot clunkier. Okay, and now 4 musical examples. The first example is one of the few examples of Bisbigliando in solo literature, and this is Impromptu Caprice by Gabriel Pierne. And the opening of this does illustrate a Bisbigliando. Now in this example, we only are using 2 notes. We're not using any enharmonics, so there's two fingers in each hand playing, only 2 notes total. It does work in this instance because we're starting from a quiet dynamic, we're doing a decrescendo, and it's not an extended Bisbigliando, it's only a couple of beats. If we were to have it sustained longer, we would want to add in an enharmonic. The second example is from Benjamin Britten's Ceremony of Carols No. 8 in Freezing Winter Night. This is a very stunning choral accompaniment where the harp is essentially doing Bisbig throughout the entire movement. And it alternates between doing just a trill with only 2 notes in the 2 hands, between doing thirds, and then there's a couple places where you have a larger chord. And do notice how the Bisbig slows down the more notes you add. So in the beginning, you're starting with a very fast trill. When you add in more notes, it's going to get slower. And then add in more notes to get even slower. Now the notation is actually pretty interesting here. In Britten's illustration, it does demonstrate the Bisbig figure played descending. Which isn't quite as idiomatic for the harp. It works a lot better played ascending. It essentially sounds the same at full tempo. It fits the hand a little bit better because we're able to balance better starting with a lower finger rather than starting with the thumb. Now, the harpist that Benjamin Britten worked with, Osteen Ellis, in an interview he did with Harp Column in 2018, he said he does it ascending also. So if he did it, we're probably safe to use that as performance practice. The third example is Neptune from Holst's The Planets. And this one's actually interesting because it's one of the few examples where we use 4 notes in a Bisbigliando. Do note that we keep it within an octave range, so the fingers are not stretched out. They're within an octave. It's a 2nd inversion 7th chord, so it is still fairly comfortable and we're able to execute it quite well. The last example I have, number 4, is Chabrier's Espana, and in the middle we do have a use of Bisbig. This one's a little bit different from the others because it's measured, and we want to maintain the same rhythm to keep that triplet feel. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Harpists traditionally play this with enharmonics, and we try to include as many enharmonic notes as possible. It does create some extra pedal changes, but the resonance difference is far improved compared to the original. So this is what it is as written. Versus how we traditionally play it. Now, as it goes on with the chord changes, it's not always possible to use an enharmonic for every single note in the chord. However, we do try to include as many enharmonics as possible so that the fingers aren't playing on the exact same strings. So even having one enharmonic in the middle section is still helpful. So there you have it. This is your crash course on the Harp Bisbigliando. I hope this is helpful. Do let me know if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more tutorials from Compose Harp.